Hello everyone. Today I have for you my unusual Lightning Warp build. Lightning Warp is an ability where you teleport to a location, do a big AoE explosion, and leave shocked ground on the ground. And you can't just teleport anywhere. You can only teleport to a ball lightning spell that you cast previously, or to an enemy that can be called. And most Lightning Warp builds just use ball lightning because it's very consistent, but I wanted to focus on teleporting to enemies that can be called, because then the goal of the build completely was to make like a jank flicker strike where you're just teleporting to one enemy, deleting him, and then the next enemy is set up to teleport to them that was hit by the AO explosion. So you can kind of just get this effect of just hitting all these enemies, doing a bunch of explosions, and it came out really cool. It has good map clearing, it has good defense, the boss damage is good, and you can kill map bosses difficulty 4 no problem with the setup that I have now, but you probably cannot kill difficulty 4 pinnacle bosses with this build, but that wasn't the point of it, so let's get right into it. Before I start, I just wanted to say that I've been making pretty expensive builds with like Ingenuity and the Adorned Diamond, which a lot of people don't like, which I'm going to do it if I want to, but I did set a goal this time to spend less than a divine for each piece of gear, not on the whole build. So actually the build costs about 20 divines or less because I have 14 pieces of gear here and I have 6 jewels on my tree, so that's 20 pieces of gear, so 20 divines or less. So how are we so easily calling enemies when you can see here that you can only call enemies that are below 30% health, normal enemies, and then magic enemies, they have to be below 20%, rare 10, and then unique 5%. So that is a hard threshold to hit exactly, so then I can hit one enemy, go to the next one, making sure they're always within that threshold. Well, the way we're doing this is by going Pathfinder, and we are doing Poison Lightning Warp. So when we poison the enemy, it will drag their health below that threshold, and then I can teleport to them without accidentally killing them by doing too much damage. But at this point in the build, I am doing too much damage on like normal tier 15s most of the time, so you gotta like delirium the maps, run something harder, which is not a problem. It's kind of what you want in a build. So, and the other way that we are making this a lot easier to hit the calling threshold is by increasing the threshold itself with the Myris. With the Myris Uxor. My webcam's over that fucking word, but this unique helmet lets you increase your calling strike threshold, and this one that I purchased here is actually 2 divines, even though I just said I bought everything for 1. Well, you can buy this for like an Exalt, so you definitely don't need the extra 20% here. You can just get a normal 100% one. I was using 100% one for a long time. And the other way that we are increasing our calling strike threshold is on our passive tree. It's really far down here, so I have a Megalomaniac for Call the Hordes, which gives you another 25% increased calling strike threshold. So with those two combined, I almost have 150%. So I can call normal enemies at like 70%, magic 50, rare like 25, and then unique at like 12%. Okay, so how are we actually poisoning enemies with Lightning Warp? Because it doesn't matter how much chance to poison enemies you have. Lightning damage does not poison enemies. Only physical and chaos do. Well, there are these gloves that make it so all damage from hits contributes to your poison magnitude. Basically, just it's all put into the calculation. So with these gloves on, we can just stack up any kind of damage, and it will then poison the enemy based on all that damage combined. It doesn't really matter what the enemy's resistances are to how much the poison is calculated. It's just their chaos resistance resists the poison itself. That's the only resistance that matters. All the damage we have just goes right into that poison calculation with these gloves. So why aren't we using the original Sin Ring to just turn our elemental damage to chaos damage so that it can poison instead of just using these gloves? Well, 1, I like my ring slot over my glove slot, but 2, also, when you do this, it will not calculate extra damage into the poison calculation because that comes after you have converted all your damage. So these extra fire damage, these extra lightning damage will still be fire and lightning. I mean, I guess I can show you here. We'll go to this. You can see I'm doing chaos damage, lightning, and fire. But these lightning and fire damage, without these gloves on, will not actually be counting towards the poison calculation. Only the chaos will. So that's why we don't do that, because extra damage as is basically a multiplier, and it's very good. You can get it on wands, and you can get it on Archmage. But we may or may not use Archmage on this build. We might use it for bossing and not for mapping because we really need help on the bossing. Don't flame me. I just have to. You need to. You need to. Also, we're using these gloves because they have a very high chance to poison on hit, which we still need for the build. We need to get to 100% because it just makes the build consistent. And so these are corrupted. They were really cheap. I got 32% to poison on hit. And then on my tree, I think I have a jewel with, yes, increased chance to inflict ailments, which includes poison, which is 14%. And then the rest of it just comes from all these poison nodes, poison chance on hit. I don't think I took this one because I'm already at 100%. Chance to poison on hit. I came this way on this cluster because it has 2 chance to poison on hit. So I get 100%. Make sure you have 100%. Those are just the ways you can do it on the tree with jewels. You can double up and get chance to poison on hit and chance to inflict ailments, but I don't need it. So this is just what I have done to get to 100%. And to run poison on Pathfinder, or probably really anything, you need to pick up so much stuff on the tree that is poison nodes. You can see all these weapon 1 clusters are all poison. So we don't really have much room for damage, like getting damage on the tree. You can't really get crits. You can get I get my defenses on my tree also. This is like the only damage nodes that I really take. And these are pretty good because you get 15% more lightning damage. So the way we're getting damage is basically just our wand, our focus, and then levels, like gem levels, which also comes from our wand. And you can get them on your focus. We'll talk about that. But on this, I have extra fire damage, extra lightning damage. You could get increased lightning damage instead of the extra fire damage. It's just you get what you can. Like I said, I was trying to make this really cheap, so I was just getting what I could. And then you get at least +4 to level of all lightning spell skills. And then the suffixes literally don't matter there. Like I said, it was cheap. And then on this, I got spell and lightning damage. I feel like this was like a steal. This is a really good one. And then cast speed makes this feel like the build feel so much smoother. It's very good. So you get cast speed and then whatever resistances you can on the focus. The energy shield really doesn't matter. It's nice. We are using energy shield, but you just get what you can here unless you're trying to go like super expensive. And then we do have cast speed, resistances, mana on our rings. Cast speed, resistances, mana. On this, I got really lucky. I got mana and then level 2 all spell skills, which is just good because since we're increasing the level of the spell so high, it costs a lot of mana. And that's why I don't have it on my focus right now because I don't think I can handle the mana cost. And I got really lucky with the prefixes with what I bought, and then the suffixes really don't matter besides the spell skills. And then the boots are also resistances, mana, 35% movement speed, because we do have a decent amount of movement on this build, but more is better. And then this belt. This belt is interesting. It usually doesn't work how you think it would. So it says right here, life recovery from flasks also applies to energy shield. So, 1 sec. Okay, I had to unallocate something, but to show you this, with how this is worded, you would think that if you lose energy shield, you can just click your life flask, and then it will recover your energy shield also with your life. Well, that's not the case. You can see I'll take this off, click my life flask. If you don't have life lost, you can't recover, like you can't use your life flask. And even if I had my life like actually lost, when the life fills up, it will stop the flask effect regardless of where the energy shield is at. But on Pathfinder, she has this node where life flask effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. So we just allocate that again. And you'll see I can get rid of my life with my mana flask. And that specifically, this is why I do this, because when I lose my energy shield, I just make sure I don't have full mana, which I really never do, and then just hit both my flasks, and you'll see how that works. And the unreserved life didn't stop my energy shield, or like the unreserved life being filled didn't stop my energy shield, so it just healed it all. And basically how this works is it's not splitting the flask effect. Both your health and your energy shield are just both getting their own flask like to work. So it's basically double flask regen with this belt on. It might not be best in slot. You might be able to go, you can go Ingenuity for sure, but that's expensive. You can go a rare belt with like 2 charm slots and then some resistances. You can't get intelligence on a belt for some reason. You can only get strength, like on a rare belt. So this is helping my attributes because everything's pretty tight on here, like resistance wise. And my attributes are so tight right now because I need 100 dex for this helmet that I can't even like afford to level my lightning warp to 20 right now from 19. So definitely attributes somewhere will be good. And yeah, but that's why I'm using this belt. You can probably just not use it and use Ingenuity and then just take this node, Eternal Youth, where you can heal your energy shield with your life flask instead, and then just hope you don't lose all your life somehow. But we have a lot of it, so you probably wouldn't. So like I said, I have a really good mana flask that makes me lose my life, so I can just hit mana flask life and then recover my energy shield. I have a pretty good life flask that's not cutting into my mana, because I don't want to lose more mana than I have to, and then I just have a grants immunity to freeze. It could be grants immunity to stun. Either way is fine for my gear. And then the most important part is this green mushroom. It actually quadruples your poison damage. No one knew this. It's crazy. That's a lie. That doesn't actually work. He's just really cute. So along with Enduring Elixirs, which I just talked about with the belt, which is making it so our life flask effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled, we are also taking the nodes that lead up to it, which is increased flask charges gained, and then the notable is more flask charges gained, which is multiplicative to the increased. And then we are taking the poison stuff. That's why we are Pathfinder on our poison build. And this one is the most damaging poison on enemies you kill is spread to other enemies within 1.5 meters. There is a Herald skill that also does this, but we don't have to take that because we have this. And then we have overwhelming toxicity, which is like the main reason you go Pathfinder, because she can double the number of poisons that targets can be affected with at the same time. Because with poison, you can only poison an enemy 1 time in this game. And if you just took overwhelming toxicity, that'd be 2 times. But then there's also notables on the tree that give you +1. This one over here also gives you +1. There's gloves that let you do that, have +1, but we're not using those obviously. And then there's also a support gem that does that, but we're not using that. So we only get +3, and then with the Ascendancy Notable, we are getting 6 stacks that we can put on an enemy. So along with our flask layer of our defense, we are also Evasion Energy Shield, which is just well known at this point to be very good. We pick up all the nodes that are Evasion Energy Shield on the monk part of the tree. We grab this cluster and we grab this cluster. This notable is very important because it turns our evasion rating. Well, it doesn't turn it, but it also gives us extra energy shield based on our evasion rating on our body armor. So yeah, this is really good. We avoid 82% of hits, and the defense was like the first thing I solved on this build. I was able to just go right into tier 15 maps from out of the campaign, and it took me a while to kill enemies, but I just never died. It's actually so nuts. Okay, so what is all this other stuff besides the poison on the tree? I'm glad you asked. Well, we have movement speed, because if you don't have movement on a build, it's bad in softcore, so I just have to do it. And then evasion rating on this, evasion rating over here. I don't really pick up this one. This is the only like notable evasion node that I'm not picking up because, like I said, I'm kind of damaging my life sometimes, and I'm not always on full life. It's definitely not a bad thing to pick up, but it just hasn't made the build because I've really prioritized jewel slots, which I'll show you. I don't have an Adorned, don't freak out, because I have a Magic Corrupted Jewel on. But yeah, this one's very good. Movement speed, evasion. These are good. 100% evasion rating from your equipped body armor, which I have this. And this one gives me evasion rating and dexterity. We got the big dexterity node to help equip our helmet. I think that's all the evasion. Like I said, all the energy shield evasion over here. And the other stuff, we have mana sustain here, reduced mana cost while not on low mana, reduced mana cost here. And I guess one thing, I do have this allocated, which it is like a 3 divine anoint on your amulet with the emotions. You have to use 2 of the white ones. I don't know, the isolation and the suffering one is like a third of the cost, so it's not too expensive anymore. It used to be way more, but instead of that, you can allocate Price of Freedom, and it will make your turn 18% of your mana cost to life cost. So that's another way to damage yourself so you can heal your energy shield, and then also it's another way to help your mana sustain. So I didn't explain what Lightning Rod actually did, but lightning damage with non-critical hits is lucky, which means it rolls it twice, so and then you get the better result from it to actually damage the enemy, which is really good. Since we don't get to use this too often, getting a good hit off is kind of important. And then also going crit on the build is basically impossible because of having to pick up all the poison on the tree. There's a lot of good crit damage nodes on that side of the tree, so maybe for like the ultimate version of this build that gets really expensive, get crit chance wand and focus, and then get crit damage on that part of the tree somehow. You have to sacrifice some things some way. But yeah, we're just running no crits, get 30% more damage, and then our hits are lucky. And then for all these jewels that I have on my tree, they all have at least 10% increased area of effect. And this is very important for Lightning Warp because maps in this game suck a lot of the time, and we can't choose what maps we run. So by increasing your area of effect, we're just making it more consistent to hit the next pack of enemies, which doesn't always happen. You might have to cast Lightning Ball a few times in a row and then blow up a pack and go to the next one, cast Lightning Ball, blow up a pack. It's just how this game is. But we're trying to do the best we can to get increased area of effect on this. There actually is some area of effect right here on the tree, but I actually opted to get this instead because Magnitude of Poison is so good. I was kind of like not getting too much of it, but it's actually a very big focus of mine now. So getting this 30% increased magnitude is super good. Maybe pick up these two increased area of effect nodes. This doesn't help you because we're not using Spell Echo on Lightning Warp. You can't use Spell Echo or Spell Cascade for some reason. So you just pick up these two nodes and then call it a day on that cluster. You don't really have to go up here until you're like a later level. I'll have an earlier level like 65, 70 tree that you can look at before I think I'm level 91 now. So yeah, you just have to get a lot of area of effect, and there's no area of effect on the tree except I think over on the warrior portion. There's some way over here, and then there's some way over here, which you can see my Megalomaniac is also picking up this node, 20% increased area of effect. This one is actually higher, but there just was no Megalomaniac that had that one when I was buying this. So yeah, area of effect, important. What else is important on these jewels, you ask? Well, I think you want one with, where is it? I think like mana on kill. I should have one somewhere. Maybe up here, yeah, mana on kill. And the other extremely important stat that I'm going to prioritize very heavily going forward is increased magnitude of ailments. Because as I said, magnitude of poison is so good for damage. And then also we are putting down shocked ground, which gives a damage multiplier because the enemy takes increased damage, which I think is the same multiplier as withered. So it's not terribly important against bosses, but for mapping, we're putting down shocked ground that enemy is getting poisoned. So this increased magnitude of ailments is increasing both the poison and the increased damage that they're getting from being on the shocked ground. So very good stat. I think I have 2 jewels that have that now. And then for my last jewel, I might have hovered over it, but +3 to level of all lightning warp skills. My lightning warp is at 29, and that is from 3 from this, 4 from this, and then 3 from this. And yeah, I could level it up one more time. I could get +2 on this. I can get 1 more level on the wand, but mana and having it is hard. As you might have noticed, all of our weapons 1 points are on our poison chance and poison damage and whatnot. And then all of our weapon set 2 stuff is on this increased curse activation, curse duration. We got more curse duration over here. And you do have to go up to this jewel socket to path all the way over. You can't cross over jewel sockets with weapon set points, which is actually pretty cool. And you can't grab keystones, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't grab keystones because I might do that if I was able to. We got increased skill effect duration and then wither effect. And that is because on weapon set 2, we are using Widowhail and a quiver, with the only important stats are really projectile speed and attack speed. I don't even think you need the dexterity to run this. I don't know. Yeah, there's no dexterity requirement on these, which is interesting. But yeah, you just need projectile speed, attack speed, and this was like 20 exalts, super cheap. This was a divine because it's perfectly 250% increased bonuses. And what we're doing with this is basically our boss or single target utility. We are casting our curses with this one. You can't see it appear because my curse activation is so fast. And then we are putting down Lightning Rod. And that is because this will actually explode and hit the boss when I cast the lightning balls. You can see that. And that's not just to do damage. What it actually is we are playing Withered with it. You can see we have on Chaos Infusion, so we are doing chaos damage with our Lightning Rod, and then we have Withering Touch. So when we hit the enemy with chaos damage, it'll put on Withered. And then also we have Vine Arrow with Momentum to get more damage on it, Swift Affliction to get more damage on it, and then Martial Tempo because we're casting it quicker. Maybe I should do that on this one because I actually shoot this one twice and only Vine Arrow once. And then Persistence for more skill effect duration because the Vine Arrow is less time than the Lightning Rod. And what the Vine Arrow is doing is putting down a plant that attaches a vine to the boss. And when I poison that plant, it will do chaos damage over time to the boss for like 110% of the damage. So it's basically another poison stack, you can kind of think of it as, but it's not actually poisoning the boss. It can only attach, like, even if you put down multiple plants, only one vine will attach to the boss. It's supposed to slow them. Pretty sure that doesn't work. It didn't. I saw it. I don't notice it slowing enemies, but maybe I'm wrong. I haven't really tested it. But yeah, so when we're fighting a boss, basically we go this curse, which you can't see, and then plant, and then we just hit them a bunch like this, more or less. There's more to it that I'll explain, but that's the idea. Also, we have so much projectile speed that we don't only need to run these slow-moving lightning balls. What we can do is put on a very fast one and then teleport to it. So this is kind of like a blink. We have blink, or I do. You don't really have to on this build. You can get other things that increase the defenses, but you can blink, throw the ball, teleport. So the movement's pretty good on this if you're using this also. And on that ball lightning that's fast, I just have more projectile speed, obviously, and then less movement speed penalty while we're casting it, since we're trying to go fast. And then since we're talking about the boss setup, I might as well talk about Despair. But Despair is lowering the enemy chaos resistance, which poison does chaos damage, so that's why we're doing that. And then we have on Focus Curse, which makes it so there's 30% reduced delay. That's why my curse is casting instantly, along with the cluster on the tree. Increased effective, supported curses, and then curses can spread when an enemy dies. I don't really use it for mapping, but if there's a couple rares nearby, might as well. Okay, so before I go into a map, I will talk about the supports. First, on Lightning Warp, we have Unleashed, and this makes it so we can cast actually 3 Lightning Warps at the same time. That's why you'll see me bounce around so fast, like randomly. And also it's because when we want to kill a rare, we have 3 Lightning Bolts that come out because we have Scatter Shot on that, and then it'll just hit all 3 of them. The 2 casts after the first one is they do 50% less damage, but it's fine. It's actually kind of a good thing because we don't want to be overkilling enemies to make the mapping better. And then, yeah, also just Unleash just makes it better when you're going between calling enemies. It just feels smoother and seems to work more often, so it's just good to have on there. And then we have this where we deal less damage with hits, which we don't want to kill enemies with our hits, and then we get more magnitude of poison. This is multiplicative magnitude, so very good. Increased AoE, and then I already talked about having more damage on hits, and the skill like this not doing crit. Inspiration for less cost of mana. And then on our Ball Lightning, we have more cast speed because this takes a long time to cast, just get it out quicker. And then deceleration, so that's why the lightning balls are going so slow, because we don't want them to fly away from us before we get to explode them all over the enemy. Scattershot, as I said, blind because we are evasion, so just whatever enemies we're just randomly hitting with the actual chain part of the ball lightning, it will blind them, so they will have less accuracy, less likely to hit us. And then lightning exposure, because ball lightning, it doesn't have a great, I mean, it has more chance to shock, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. So, but it hits a lot of times, and I think shock, no matter what damage it does, it has a 1% chance to proc on an enemy. So when we're fighting bosses, this will proc lightning exposure on them, and then we just do 20%. They have 20% reduced resistances to our lightning warp hits, which is very good. So for the boss setup, well, I guess I'll talk about these first. Grim Feast, OP, Blink, very nice. You need it to move around. And we aren't using Ghost Dance, I think is what it's called, which recovers energy shield because I don't have enough spirit. I did have a helmet that had spirit on it, and I was running that, but you don't need to. There's also a support gem that gives you increased recovery rate of your health flask, which is very good. So if you get a helmet with spirit on it and not one that has increased culling threshold, then you can run those instead if you would like. The defense is good enough with Grim Feast. You don't need Ghost Dance. And then, yeah, we have Archmage, but it's not on until I go to bosses, because I just turn these off, turn on Archmage, because we need more damage for the boss, and then I actually flip Unleashed and Arcane Tempo, because this makes it so we put down all of our stuff, curse the boss, and then I throw out all these balls and then teleport between them like this to put all the poison on them. You can see my mana go away, so then you kind of do that. I do like 2 rounds of this, and then I'll replace all the things. You don't gotta curse as often, because curses last a long time on this build. And then, yeah, it's kind of how it goes. Since we're always hitting our mana flask, we're always just hitting our life flask after, because our mana flask makes us lose life. And that's making it so we're always recovering energy shield and life in case we get hit. It just makes it so we're less likely to die from a follow-up hit. And now we can go into a map because we know everything. Yay! Okay, I'll probably do this map. I have more monster life. And I was running a map, but something happened in the middle of it, IRL. That totally threw me out of my flow of recording. So let me lock back in, go into seepage, and then it's this map. It's whatever. But it's basically for mapping. The linking in this map is going to be so bad. Actually, it was pretty good there, but I missed the enemy's call range. You kind of just pay attention to their health bar. You want to turn on health bar for sure. You can't really tell if something's normal or magic because design choices. So that does kind of make it hard. You can obviously tell when they're rare usually. Sometimes you can tell when they're magic, but not always very easily. So you're just looking at the health bar to be like kind of low, and then you're just clicking on them, and then you're going from place to place. You're obviously starting off the combo with the slow scattershot lightning ball. If you're far away, you can just start throwing this out, and you might actually like hit an enemy with it, and then start it, and you feel dope as fuck for doing that. Like we'll do it here. There'll be an enemy. So close. For rares, you probably just want to curse. It's more monster life. Like usually you wouldn't have to do anything really. But since it's more monster life, the rares will be a little tanky. Here we just go around, click on everyone. That was a rare, and he just died without any curses. I didn't even realize he was there. We're just going to make our way to the boss, and I'll show you how the boss goes. It'll take me a second, but it should go just fine. This is increased monster damage too, which is good, because it's surprising at how good the defense is on this build, actually. I guess that will prove it somewhat. So it is this boss, right? So he doesn't even start till I get close to him. So yeah, we swap these because this will make it so we unleash 3 packs of scattershot spells. So then we can just hit them all and do like full damage, because with unleash we're doing like half damage on some of the hits, and then we're just gonna hit them all. And then we turn these off, turn on Archmage because we're fighting a boss and they have a lot of health. And so we do 2 lightning, poison, I'll curse him, and then we'll start the combo. I'm going to start losing mana right away, so I'm going to hit both the mana and the life flask. And then he moved, so I'm just going to restart everything. But usually I would do 2, what you want to call them. I got to move out of there. I would do 2 lightning ball, lightning warp things, and then I would replace my arrows. And I'll probably have to replace my curse now, along with all this. Oh, he's just being weird. So this one should probably get him below Culling threshold. Oh, geez. And boop, he's dead. So yeah, the boss damage isn't, you got to do a lot of setup. It's a lot of work. You do have to be careful to not get like one hit. I don't know if I got hit by that big rock at some point, but I probably have evasion chance on it anyway. But yeah, you got to be careful. But you do a decent amount of damage. The build's very far along. It has 10 levels to spells, so if you're first starting out, you might want to take down your boss difficulty on your maps, because it'll take forever to kill them, but it's just going to take forever to kill them, but you won't be running out of mana. So it might just be a fight. You might not delete the bosses, and you might actually get to play the game. But then, yeah, we're going to go... Well, I'm not going to show you it, but you go back to mapping, turn off Archmage, turn back on Blink and Grim Feast, and then continue your map. So, yeah. Okay, so I think that's everything that I need to explain. There will be a POB in the description. The one thing I forgot to say is that increased weapon swap speed on a Ruby Jewel is very nice for this build, and you can also get increased area of effect on it. To make the build better, I need to figure out my mana sustain and get the level of spell skills, like on all the other equipment that I have. I need it on my focus. I need one more on the wand. And I swear there was one. Oh yeah, and I need to actually level up the gem and maybe get a corrupted one. So that's 5 levels that I can put, which would be a lot more damage. I probably could kill pinnacle bosses at that point, I would think. But yeah. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you liked the video and you like the creativity of this build, give me a like and subscribe if you want to see what else I got. Because I love this game and I love making builds on this game. See ya.